Tava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Tava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Tava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Tava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prachachana Ranjana Yamuna Ira Vanachari Yamuna Vanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayaratha Tava Kunja Bihari Jayaratha Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajacharya Sutra Satashmad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam namaskrityam naram java narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tadodayam utirayet. Shrinvata sukata Krishna punya shravana kirtanad hridyanto stoya patrani vidunoti suratsatam nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtikir. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So we're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, entitled The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha. Thank you. We read text 3 to 5. So I just read text 3 and 4. Prajapatir dakta Shrishno bhavatvaja mukham shira mitrasya chakshushikshatha bhagham svam bharisho bhagha. Translation: Lord Shiva continued, since the head of Daksha has already been burned to ashes, he will have the head of a goat. The demigod known as Bhaga will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. Text 4. Pusha tu yajmanasya daptir chakshutu pishtadvuk deva prakrita sarvankya yema ucheshanam dadhu. Translation: The demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples, and if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpea flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. There is a short purport. The demigod Pusha became dependent on his disciples for chewing, otherwise he was allowed to swallow only dough made of chickpea flour. Thus his punishment continued. He could not use his teeth for eating, since he had laughed at Lord Shiva, deriding him by showing his teeth. In other words, it was not appropriate for him to have teeth, for he had used them against Lord Shiva. And then text 5, which we have here on the board. Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno. Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno. Hashtabhyam Kritabhavaha. Hashtabhyam Kritabhavaha. Bhavantvad atarvyavaschanye. Bhavantvaryavaschanye. Bhashta smashrur prighur bhavet. Bhashta smashrur prighur bhavet. Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno. Hashtabhyam Kritabhavaha. Bhavantvadaryan Vaschanye. Bhashta Smashrur Brighur Bhavet.
Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno.
Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno.
Hastabhyam Kritabhavaha.
Hastabhyam Kritabhavaha.
Bhavantvaryavashanye.
Bhavantvaryavashanye.
Vastashmashrur Brigur Bhavet.
Vastashmashrur Brigur Bhavet. Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno.
Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno.
Hastabhyam Kritabhavaha.
Hastabhyam Kritabhavaha.
Bhavantvaryavashanye.
Bhavantvaryavashanye.
Vastasmashrur Brigur Bhavet.
Vastasmashrur Brigur Bhavet.
Vaishnavis.
Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno.
Bahubhyam Ashvino Pushno.
Hastabhyam Kritabhavaha.
Hastabhyam Kritabhavaha.
Bhavantvaryavashanye.
Bhavantvaryavaschanye.
Vastasmashrur Brigur Bhavet.
Bhastasmashrur Brigur Bhavet. Bahubhyam, with two arms. Ashvinoho, of Ashvini Kumara. Pushnaha, of Pusha. Hashtabhyam, with two hands. Kritabhava, those in need of arms. Bhavantu, they will have to. Advar Yavaha, the priests, Cha, and Anye, others. Basta Shmashrushu, sorry, Basta Shmashruhu, the beard of the goat. Briguhu, Brigu, Bhavet, he may have. Een beetje lauter machen. Muss ich das so? Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Those who have had their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Ashvini Kumara. And those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priests will also have to act in that manner. As for Brigu, he will have the beard from the goat's head. Purport. Brigu Muni, a great supporter of Daksha, was awarded the beard of the goat's head, which was substituted for the head of Daksha. It appears from the exchange of Daksha's head that a modern scientific theory that the brain substance is the cause of all intelligent work is not valid. The brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. The real intelligence, mind and consciousness are part of the particular individual soul. It would be found in the verse ahead that after Daksha's head was replaced by the goat's head, he was intelligent as he had previously been. He prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is not possible for a goat to do. Therefore, it is definitely concluded that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. The whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. It doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. It is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home, on leaving his present material body. Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalang Pangham Langite Kirim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Shri Gurudinataranam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyatyate Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To those who have their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Ashwini Kumaras, and those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priest will also have to act in that manner. As for Bhrigu, he will have the beard from the goat's head. Okay, so this chapter is entitled The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha, and it will describe how Daksha finally completes his sacrifice, although he went through a lot of tribulations to do so. And as we know from the story, and that because Daksha and his followers didn't show respect to Shiva, and even not only not showing respect, but also very much blaspheming and offending Lord Shiva. As a consequence, they were punished severely. And now, after Lord Brahma asked for forgiveness, then now Shiva feels, compassion, and he kind of, restores or gives them some benedictions that they may again be doing okay. And basically, in these shlokas 3, 4, and 5, we hear what happens. So Lord Shiva fulfills the request of Lord Brahma partially, not fully, because what happened has happened, and Shiva already punished them. So, and like in the example of Daksha, Daksha's head was cut off, and that head was burned. So you can't replace Daksha's head because it didn't exist anymore. So, but Shiva kind of partially, made it, how you say, good again. So, therefore, it says here in this slokas, let Daksha have a goat's head. He had the words and intelligence of a goat at the time of offending him. Okay, this Daksha, he didn't behave like a gentleman, but he behaved like an animal. So let's give him a goat's head. Then Bhaga, let Bhaga see his portion of sacrifice with Mitra's eyes. His eyes were contaminated with fault, devoid of spiritual vision. So because Bhaga didn't have a proper vision. So he had now to see through the Mitra's eyes. He could again see, but not with his own eyes, because they were out. Then let Pusha chew through the teeth of his disciple, or Daksha, or eat chickpea dough if he is alone, since he has shown his teeth at the devotees and laughed at them. So he was like, no, when Shiva was offended, when the other followers of Shiva were offended, then he was like smiling, you know. He showed his teeth. So as punishment, he lost his teeth. And now, okay, he needs to eat something. So he can eat through the teeth of his disciples. I don't know how that works, but through some ways that... yeah. And then if he's alone, maybe they have to chew for him, and then he can swallow it. And if he's alone, he has to eat chickpea dough. I don't know whether that's very tasty, you know. We like pakoras, we like ladus, we like all these dishes made from chickpea flour, but to just have the chickpea dough seems to be a bit tapas, yeah. Then let the demigods who agreed to give me share have their limbs restored. So the demigods, those who actually were in favor of the whole things and actually were willing to give their share to Shiva. So let them, their limbs, although they were injured by the attack of Virabhadra and the other followers of Shiva, let them have their limbs restored, since they did not side with Daksha when Daksha criticized me. And then let the priests and others work with the arms of the Ashwini Kumaras and the hands of Pusha. They favored Daksha, raising their arms and shouting. So some of the priests, they were like, yes, he's right. So and that's why they lost their arms. And now they had to work with the arms of Ashwini Kumaras and others. And Bhrigu, let Bhrigu Muni have the mustache of a goat, because his mustache was cut off, but now he would have one of a goat, since he was the chief advisor of Daksha. And since Daksha now had a goat head, so he's the chief advisor, let him have a goat mustache. So that was the how Lord Shiva fulfills the request of Lord Brahma partially. So that's basically what we hear in this section of the Bhagavatam. Now, Prabhupada in the purport makes an interesting comment that it appears from the exchange of Daksha's head that the modern scientist's theory that the brain substance is the cause of intelligent work is not valid. And the brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. So that's Prabhupada arguing, using logic, arguing on the basis of scripture, that it's the brain, and then of course that's the whole Vedic understanding, a viewpoint, that the material body is an instrument, and it's not the all in all. We are not the body, but we are spiritual soul who reside within the body, and we just use the body as an instrument. And beside that, there is also subtle body. There is the soul, and then the soul is within the subtle body, which is false ego, intelligence, and mind, thinking, feeling, and willing. So that's all subtle. And then that soul in the subtle body resides in the gross body. And that gross body is really just an instrument. And that means, of course, all the parts of the body, including the brain. The brain is just an instrument through which the soul is acting as part of the vehicle of the body. Yeah, that's basically what Prabhupada is making comment here. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shri Shri Gaura Nitai Ki Jai. And Srila Prabhupada saying that the proof of that is that Daksha, although he had a goat head, he didn't behave like a goat, but he behaved like Daksha, and he did now even purified, taking a very humble position. And Daksha, with the goat head, offered beautiful prayers to Lord Shiva. This is text 13. King Daksha said, "My dear Lord Shiva, I committed a great offense against you, but you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me a favor, great favor by punishing me. You and Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified brahmanas. Why then should you neglect me, who am engaged in performing sacrifices?" So he says, "Well, you did a great favor to me by punishing me." Quite humble, okay. Actually, I deserve it. I was so proud, and you helped me to come to my senses and realize about my mistakes. So I'm very grateful. My dear great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Lord Brahma in order to protect the brahmanas in pursuing education, austerities, vow, and self-realization. As protector of the brahmanas, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. So Shiva is there to protect the brahmanas, just like a gopa is protecting the cows with his stick. I did not know your full glories, Daksha says. For this reason I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly. It's a nice analogy. I threw, arrows of sharp words. And it says, nothing is more painful than, sharp words. If someone sticks a knife in your chest, of course that's also not so pleasant. But in some way, if you're lucky, you can be healed. But sharp words can be there forever in your heart, and can be very, very painful. Especially if a loved one, dear one, is using sharp words, it can be very painful. So although you did not take them into account, I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality. But you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. So very nice prayers. Daksha offered, but he offered them with a goat head. The goat head was speaking. So Prabhupada makes a point that it shows that what really counts is the soul and the consciousness of a personality, and not the body. That's what Prabhupada's conclusion, whatever body we have, or whatever brain we have, we can become fully Krishna conscious if we just divert our consciousness towards Krishna. And in this connection, it's a bit a controversial topic, but what comes to my mind is that Prabhupada made a statement that women have a smaller brain. And it's controversial because scientifically it's not true, because by now we know that this is not true. The brain substance of a man and female is the same. It's not smaller. But when Prabhupada was in his Scottish English school in Calcutta in 1900, I don't know, in the early 19th, that was the professor was teaching. They were teaching like that. And Prabhupada learned it in school, and then he mentioned it in some conversation or so. But even if that would be the case, which is not, it is the same substance. But even if it would, according to this statement of Prabhupada, it doesn't matter, because it's not the brain substance that actually, it's not the size of the brain or what kind of brain which is really matter, but it is the consciousness which is really important. And then Prabhupada says the whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. And we spoke about that yesterday, that some people were accusing Prabhupada of the Hare Krishna movement that you're doing here brainwash. And it's interesting, also here in Switzerland, we will, in the Bhakti program, we will have a look at some old videos of the Swiss TV. And there is a debate going on between Atma Tattva, Armin Risi, and what is his name? Hugo Stamm. Hugo Stamm is a journalist, and he is an expert in cults. So they have a debate. And then Hugo Stamm says, this chanting of mantras, this is like brainwash. like for hours and hours, people just repeat the same word, and this has a very bad influence on the brain. It influences the brain in a negative way, and then people get brainwashed. You manipulate people by this, So that's a perception some people have. People, they don't sleep much, they sleep less, and then in the morning they recite this mantra again and again, and then they become, you can influence them because of that. But this is a very materialistic point of view, like if you know a bit about a spiritual practice, any tradition has mantra recitation. There are Buddhist monks who, since thousands of years, they recite mantras on their beads. There is in Artos, it's called in Greek. There is some Orthodox monks who the whole day recite Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, some mantra, asking for the mercy of Jesus Christ. They recite the whole day. They repeat these prayers. This is a very, traditional spiritual practice that you repeat the names of God. And then now, just because it's something new and people don't know, then they say, "Oh, this is brainwash." So it's kind of, it doesn't really has any, it doesn't really make sense. But even if you would say, Prabhupada also sometimes replied, yes, we do wash the brains of people, because it's required. Because the brain is very dirty. Brain is dirty. And what is the dirtiness? And Prabhupada also mentioned it. The dirtiness is that men and women, they're like cats and dogs. Very lusty, hankering after each other, just in that way. So this is animal consciousness. Human form of life means responsible life, means controlling your senses, being responsible. And that's why you need to learn to control. And in order to do that, you need to purify your consciousness so that you'll be able to do that. And that you understand there is a higher meaning of life than just sense gratification. So that requires purification. And of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also promotes Chaitya Darpana Marjanam, that by chanting the holy name, the mirror of consciousness, the heart, will be cleansed. If you have a mirror which is covered with dust, you can't see your own personality. If that mirror is cleansed, then you can see again properly. And then Prabhupada also makes the point that specifically anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home on leaving this present material body. So that's kind of a blessing. The way Prabhupada makes the point. Anyone in Krishna consciousness go back to Godhead. Of course, what does it mean to be in Krishna consciousness? It means you are in Krishna consciousness. It means you have absorbed your consciousness in Krishna. And you're nicely situated in that consciousness, always remembering Krishna, always desiring to serve Krishna, to love Krishna, and making Krishna your number one priority in life. And if we do that, certainly at the end of life, we'll remember Krishna and we'll go back to Godhead, back to Krishna. And maybe I'll keep it short today, end with a purport, famous purport. We have mentioned it several times, but it's always good to hear. Where Prabhupada says that actually those who are eager to go back to Godhead, they will go back to Godhead, but we have to be eager. And this is from the famous shloka which we recited at the beginning also. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam sukata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyanto stohi abhadrani vidunoti saritsatam. That Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire from material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his message, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So, this Krishna Katha, it is Punya Shravana Kirtana, it's very auspicious. The Lord, Hridhanto Stohi Abhadrani, Vidunoti Saritsatam, that the the Lord who resides within the heart, Hridhi Antastaha, who is within the heart, he certainly will clean the heart from all abhadrani, from all desires to enjoy matter. So Krishna within the heart, he's very eager to help us and to clean our heart. But what is the requirement? To be eager. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Those who have developed the urge to hear the message. And we spoke about this before. Urge, what does the word urge is very significant. An urge means, like, oh my God, I need to go to the bathroom, It's like urgent. There's an urge. You have to do something urgently. It's not something you can postpone. Yeah, I can do it later. No, I need to go now, because it's really urgent. And we all have experience of this, And of course there is other urges. The body has different urges. Also the urge of sex desire. If someone has really a strong, urge, then it's very difficult to control that urge. So it means it's something very strong. So those who have an urge to hear Krishna Katha, then the Lord will cleanse their heart. So we need to ask ourselves, do I have an urge to hear Krishna Katha? Usually, you're all sitting here, that's very nice. But why are you sitting here? Most probably because it's part of the morning program and, you were told to do so. And afterwards there will be prasadam and you don't want to miss the breakfast. But so then how much your heart will be cleansed? That's the question. But the more we have really an urge, like I really must hear, 2 days Bhagavatam class, tomorrow Akrura Prabhu will give Bhagavatam class. I need to go and listen, I have to hear Krishna Katha. And as more that urge becomes very strong, the more the Lord is inspired to clean our heart. So that's the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, and also Nityam Bhagavatam, that daily we serve Bhagavatam daily, we hear again and again and again, and we hear and chant the glories of Krishna's. And the more we develop this urge and desire, the more the Lord will clean our heart. So, and Prabhupada explains very beautifully that the Lord is actually very eager. The Lord is reciprocally responded to his devotee. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance in a transcendental service of the Lord and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee must easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. That's my favorite statement in here. Because it's quite amazing, no? The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Even if we desire, but how much do we desire? And even if we desire strongly, still the Lord has much more. Why? Because he has so much love. There is this song or statement, Jesus loves you, and it's true, and not only Jesus, but Krishna, Krishna loves us so much. And if we would be more aware how much Jesus, or not Jesus, also, yeah, but how much Krishna loves us. I do have some relationship to Jesus. I must say that I feel strongly connected. But we're speaking about Krishna, that God, Krishna, and his representative, like Srila Prabhupada, the Guru, and also Jesus, they actually love us very much, And if we would be really aware how much they love us, we would feel so encouraged. Usually we enter into a relationship with someone in this material world because we have that desire to feel encouraged by someone, like someone is encouraging us, and we need that feeling of being loved by someone, which is natural, and it's also good. It can be helpful, but at the same time there is already someone who loves us very much. That's God, that's Krishna, who really loves us, and he just wants the best for us. And even if we go through difficult times in life, sometimes life does not turn out the way we have planned it, but still it's the mercy of Krishna. Krishna just wants the best for us, and he really loves and cares for us. So Krishna is very eager to take us back. And I don't know what he must think about us, because we're just so dull that we don't have much desire to go to him, you know. Although, and that's the whole idea of also Janmashtami, the Lord appears in this world, and he's Lila Purushottam. He comes and he performs his pastimes to basically attract us back to him. No, he comes, he performs all this beautiful, makes all these arrangements so that we become again attracted to him. But we still kind of maintain some hope to be happy in this world and have some plans to enjoy here, and do not really develop the required enthusiasm to actually go back to him. And Prabhupada points this out. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Not at all. Yeah, it's in the Prabhupada says, most of us do not desire at... Yeah, 1:2:17. It's like quite a strong statement. And of course Prabhupada very humbly, including himself, most of us, of course he's completely in connection, in love with Krishna, and all of the time is feeling Krishna's presence. But he says that we do not desire at all. Why? Because we still have so many material desires, and we think, well, spiritual world, okay, there is the cows, there is the gopas, they go out. But will there be pizza also? Or is there pizza in the spiritual world? No, whatever attachments we have, then we wonder, well, will I be able to enjoy this up there also? Or, so we're not so sure whether do I want to become do I like to live on the countryside and become a cowboy, and maybe I will miss something. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. So only a very few actually want to go. And then if someone really desires, then Krishna is really enthusiastic. Oh, finally someone wants to go. Yes, I will help him. And he will make all the arrangements to help us. So it's up to us. This is our free choice. How much do we actually want to go back to Godhead? How much do we actually want to be with Krishna? And the more we actually want, the more Krishna will help us and make all kinds of arrangements without any difficulties. No. Prabhupada continues here that one cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over material nature. It's very difficult to get rid of such desires. Woman and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotees making progress on the path to Godhead. Or for women, men and wealth, we understand it's about the attraction of the opposite sex, or even same sex, the attraction. That's the attraction, the desire to enjoy and lord, that's the difficulty. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell victim of these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. To become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from a remote time, particularly immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. To recover from the foreign nature. Now, what we are surrounded with and what we think is our home, and this give us enjoyment and happiness, actually is just foreign nature. It is not our true environment. But if one is engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. We hear about Krishna, we hear about his past, and we hear about the loving relationship between Krishna and his devotees, and then we realize, wow, this is so beautiful to have this loving relationship with Krishna, and I'm also a servant of Krishna, I'm also part of this pastimes, so let me go back. Let me again be in the service of the Lord. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. So the mind is what is creating difficulties, because the mind, whatever sense objects, whatever sense impression comes into the mind either rejects or accepts, and usually wants to accept enjoyment and rejects difficulties. But as we learn from the Gita, we need to become, tolerate the dualities of the material world and just continue with our duty, which is to perform devotional service and really try to absorb our mind more and more in Krishna. And the more we become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, the more Krishna will see our endeavor, and then Krishna from within will help us so that we can actually go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, Hare Krishna. You like some comments, Akrura Prabhu? Or some?
I'm curious about your experience in studying the scriptures, about relationship. I'm curious, what is your experience in studying the scriptures and listening from devotees' classes about relationship between devotees in the spiritual world? How does it look like? And sometimes I think acharyas in their poems say, oh, well, I only love Krishna.
Okay.
So does it mean that you don't love anybody else? I mean, there are so many devotees, and they're so, amazing people, and beautiful and intelligent. And then there is also the statement Tadiyanam Samarchanam, about, how call this verse? Tadiyanam, about Tadiyanam, about paraphernalia, and in paraphernalia of Krishna, devotees are also included. So it said it's higher than worshipping Krishna is worshipping his paraphernalia, which includes devotees. But then it said that, there is only one person that I love, and that's Krishna, and I only think of him. So this sounds strange. This sounds contradictory.
Okay, on one hand we hear that the acharyas say that we only love Krishna. At the same time, Krishna includes his devotees and his, expansion. Yeah, that's an interesting question. If we hear about the pastimes of Krishna, then there is always devotees involved. You don't hear Krishna went alone to the forest, and he went alone to Govardhan, and he went alone to Yamuna, and he came back and he was alone. And what kind of pastime? If Krishna just is alone, then there is nothing happens. There is no rasa, there is no exchange of love. So there is all these pastimes, and there is all this different flavor of loving relationship between him and his devotees, and there the whole nectar comes out. And even the devotees amongst themselves, because we have different pastimes, that Krishna is with all the gopas, and there is different personalities interacting with Krishna. And obviously amongst them, they also must feel a lot of pleasure and bliss being together with Krishna, because there is no envy. If there would be envy, then some of the gopas may become envious, why Krishna sits closer to him. And it's also described, Krishna sits in the center, and all the gopas sit around him, and although there is, unlimited gopas, everyone feels that Krishna is just looking at him. Or similarly to the gopis in the Ras dance, all the gopis, they think Krishna is just with me, although of course Krishna expanded himself. But So there is no envy. It's not that the others are a threat or some, and if there is no envy, that means there is no enmity, and that there is a deep friendship and love amongst the different associates of Krishna. And I also found interesting in the third canto we find a description, 15th chapter, of Vaikuntha, and there is described that the Vaikuntha Vasis, like the men and women in the Vimanas, they're very attractive. The women look very attractive, and it's not that the men don't see that they are attractive. That they can recognize they're very attractive, but because both men and women are so much absorbed in serving Krishna, there's no thought of enjoying each other, because they're all engaged in servicing, enjoying the service. I think that's and Prabhupada says there in the purport, there is no sex life in the spiritual world. And again, that's like a statement. Some may scratch their head. Well, do I really want to go there? But that's the whole point, because sex life in this world is just a perverted reflection of the real union and loving exchange of Krishna and his devotees up there. So if we become an eternal associate of Krishna, then we have this intimate loving relationship with Krishna, which is the original taste of what we try to find in this world. Yes, so we love Krishna, only Krishna, but Krishna means with his devotees. So we love Krishna and his devotees, and there is a loving, but that loving exchange amongst the devotees is always centered around Krishna. We love each other because we all love Krishna and we serve him. That way of it. And of course, that's also the idea. Like Prabhupada says, a temple is supposed to be Vaikuntha, and what it makes it Vaikuntha. Yes, there is Shaligram Shila on the altar, and we chant the holy name, which makes it Vaikuntha, but it's also the relationships. That loving relationships, respectful relationships amongst devotees makes the place Vaikuntha. And we all have Krishna in the center, serving him, and that spirit of serving Krishna together makes a place Vaikuntha, or Goloka Vrindavan, or Jagannath Puri.
So have you noticed that some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they seem to love Srila Prabhupada more than Krishna? Yeah,
that's amazing. That's also because Guru Bhakti, that's not different from, that as much you love your Guru, as much you increase your love for Krishna. That's...
this is somewhere in the scriptures that Guru Bhakti is the same as Krishna Bhakti.
I would have to look for a reference for that. But in understanding that the Guru is the representative of Krishna, and also the reference of what you mentioned, Lord Shiva saying to Parvati that, okay, worship Vishnu is the highest, but worship of my devotees is even higher. So worship means love also. Like if you may love Krishna, but if you love Krishna's devotee, then in the eyes of Krishna, it's very much appreciated by Krishna.
Can't you imagine this? Like, if you have devotees around you and they are very attractive, you can fall in love with devotees, and then if you're in the spiritual world and you see so many beautiful people around you and you like them, and then somehow, so is Krishna supposed to be like a little bit higher or more like
not this? A little bit. Not a little bit, I would say.
I don't understand how this works, because
well, best we go.
Attraction is spontaneous. Attraction is spontaneous. When you're attracted to someone, it's spontaneous. When you fall in love in the material world, it's spontaneous. And okay, we are practicing, we are behaving as if we love Krishna, by the bhakti. And then we are supposed to come to the spontaneous level. But after so many years, you can realize that you don't have much love for Krishna. But you have some love for devotees, so maybe they are our hope. Does it have to, like, if you meet Krishna and you say, Krishna, I like more this devotee than you. So would he be like disappointed or something? Because your devotees are so beautiful, and I love them so much. So, what do you think about that?
I mean, thank you for your...
No, what does Krishna think? I ask Krishna. Yes, Krishna, what do you think about this? I said, what would Krishna say? He would say, you can go back to the material world. You don't understand anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for this reflection and also honest. You said that we don't have much love after so many years. I would respectfully disagree. I'm sure you have some love, and we all have some attachment. Because when we stand in front of the deities and we sing, and we do feel something for the deities, and we do feel for Krishna. And we can see that there is, a shift happen over some years we develop. But yeah, and compared to other desires we may have, then it's still small. Now, in regard of your question, I mean, I can't really speak with authority on that, and most probably we'll have to go there and see how it is. But my assumption is that Krishna is so all attractive that it's just overwhelm everything else. Even if the devotees are very attractive and very beautiful and very nice, but Krishna is even more. And maybe the Leela of Brahma Vimohana Lila, where actually, the devotees, like that means the elderly gopis, they have their sons, which are gopas, and they're all devotees of Krishna, and they're all associates of the Lord, and they love each other, and the mothers, they love their children very much, of course. But then when Krishna, because Brahma steals all the coward boys and the calves, when Krishna expands himself as the gopas and as the calves, then the mother realizes that their love becomes much stronger. Because originally, although they love their children, they actually always love Krishna more, but then during this year, all of a sudden, they love their own children as they love Krishna. And this could be a possible answer.
Thank you. That's a beautiful answer. Thank you.
Yeah. So which shows that Krishna. That's the name of Krishna. He's all attractive. He's just so attractive. Hare Krishna. Should we stop here, or you have another?
I had a comment.
Okay. Yeah. Please. Then we. Yes.
Thank you very much. I really liked the point on consciousness, how the consciousness comes from the soul. And this morning, I heard from Srila Prabhupada that the first step, you can control your senses only when you have your mind in control. So to a great extent, consciousness plays a lot of importance. And His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj used to say that sometimes we take our Krishna conscious life for granted, but we should always remind ourselves that we are trying to be Krishna conscious. So once we are Krishna conscious, then no problem. But we are always trying to be Krishna conscious, which is something we should always remind ourselves. And also about this fact of Krishna's eagerness. It was my last visit that I was here, and we were eating lunch. And then all devotees had left, and there was Mandali Bhadra Prabhu, and he just made this statement which stayed with me. He said that it is very easy for us to get Krishna, but it is very difficult for Krishna to get us. Which made a lot of sense to me. And it is actually quite real, and especially when you were reading, I could reflect on that statement. And also, about this point you made about women, and Srila Prabhupada makes this statement. And very often I see that Srila Prabhupada quotes from the Shastras how women are supposed to have low intelligence. And then very often women are quoted with Shudras. So, I mean, there are always these questions, especially as a woman, I definitely have questions. So,
why did I took more questions?
So, I was having this discussion, and Guru Maharaj said that, it is often associated with the tendencies you have. So when you are a Shudra, when you are dim-wit and you're only serving and you're taking orders and you don't use your intelligence much. And then he gave this very beautiful description to me once, that he said that, in the olden days, women even now, women are so grossly engaged in maintenance of the family. and they had to travel far distances and carry water, and they had to do everything by hand, and everything was so much more tougher. But now, what is it? You open the tap, you get water, you turn on the food processor, and everything is grinded. So with technology and everything, it's become so much more easier. And this is something he explained to me when I was thinking whether or not I should take a decision. Of course, all instructions are based on time, place, circumstances, and situations. But when I was asking him whether I should take a decision, which was quite a big one, he said that now women are intelligent enough. Like, at least he told me that you're intelligent enough to take this decision. And he explained it through how in the olden times women were struggling a lot more, and now at least they have these few facilities. But very importantly, he always mentioned that when he says that some of my female disciples may feel that, oh, Prabhupada makes this statement. But you have to understand, when you are a devotee, you're just a devotee. So these statements that are made are for the people in general. But when you are a devotee, you are not a man or a woman. You are Krishna conscious and you're a devotee first. So all of these do not apply to you. So this was basically my comment, but I had very quick 2 questions. Sorry. So, because I was dwelling upon the statement you made, how there is no envy in the spiritual world, but we also see like Chandravali and Srimati Radharani. So sometimes I feel that these different tastes do exist in the spiritual world, but they may not be in our ambit for some reason. That's my first question.
Yeah, that is, maybe let's go by one. I mean, you already answered it in some ways. Yeah, there is this kind of spiritual competition who can serve Krishna better. So that competitive spirit might be there or is there, but it's not envy in the sense that you actually want to really harm the other person and push the other person down.
And also, I quite liked how in the Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada states how Krishna is eager to get us and Krishna gives us the mercy and he's supportive. But then I was also thinking of chapter 7, text 3, Manushanam Saharsheshu, where Krishna points out that this sort of perfection is so difficult. So although at one end I feel encouraged, but the other hand it's very intimidating too, because Krishna says it's so difficult to know him in perfection and free from doubt.
And Prabhupada says in the same purport, in the same, just one sentence above, he says that only very few men or women actually desire to go back. It's very few. But those who are desiring, then Krishna will help. So we just have to make sure that we belong to this few people. That's our part. And if we don't feel so much that desire, then we can pray. We can pray, Krishna, please. You see my heart. Actually, I don't have that desire, but at least I understand it would be better to have that desire. So please encourage that desire in my heart, and please take away the other desire. And Krishna will do. So this way we can. Okay, Akrura Prabhu is giving the last comment, and then we stop. I always fail in giving short classes.
This will take 1 hour to answer. So it's said that devotees don't want 5 kinds of liberation, and one liberation is Salokya Mukti. So that means living on the same planet as the Lord. And then we say that we should have a desire to go back to Godhead. So how to understand this?
Okay. Yes. Well, first of all, good question. I mean, it says that the pure devotee does not desire. I mean, all devotees do not desire ekatvam. They don't desire to merge with Krishna, to be one with Krishna. No devotee wants this. Some devotees may desire to be on the same planet, have the same feature, be the associates. That might be there, and that's okay. But a pure devotee who follows pure devotional service and aims Goloka Vrindavan, he will not desire any of the 5 kinds of liberation. Now, when it comes back to Godhead, of course, that's also, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches also in his prayers, Shikshastakam, that life after life, I don't desire, I may life after life, just want to serve you. I don't desire liberation. I also once had a T-shirt which says "Reincarnation, no thanks," and it was like a recycle, and it was crossed. Reincarnation, no thank. I have enough of this. And then one devotee approached me, Prabhu, this is not our philosophy. It's not true. Not our philosophy. We don't mind. We can take birth many times, as long we take birth as an insect in a house of a Vaishnava. We are happy. But that's a very high level. It's a very high level to just pray, Krishna, I just want to be engaged in your service. You can do whatever you want with me. That's the level of a very pure devotee. So that's why Prabhupada encourages us, in general, to desire. Let's go back to Godhead. Yes, I want to go back. Like on our level that we are, it is healthy to desire to go back to Godhead. Then once, when we are pure, then we may realize, actually it doesn't matter so much. I just want to serve you. But on our level, it makes sense to desire to go back. And then on a higher level, we understand fine-tuning, okay, I can also take birth again if you desire Krishna. But then this is already very high level. Do you agree? Does it make sense?
Okay, let me say something. It seems like, from what you are saying, it seems that going back to Godhead actually means going back to higher consciousness, not to physical location.
That's another way you can look at it, yeah.
If you want to go to a physical location, that's Salokya Mukti.
Well,
you want liberation. You want, there it's all beautiful, all wonderful, and you are just freed from all the miseries of the material world.
Yeah.
For me, I feel a little bit guilty to go back to Godhead because, first of all, I don't think I deserve it. And second of all, it's too nice there.
Yeah. That's also an interesting point, that, like any other spiritual path, they always have the problem of desiring liberation. Like the Buddhists, they desire nirvana, but that desire in itself is selfish. I desire liberation. This is selfish. Of course, they try to solve the problem with become a bodhisattva, and then you wait until every living entity is liberated. But in general, bhakti is much more practical, because instead of desiring liberation, your own liberation, you just desire the pleasure of Krishna. And by desiring pleasing Krishna, you're selfless. So at the end of the day, we desire to please Krishna, to love Krishna. And then as a side effect, we get liberated. As a side effect, we go back to Godhead and whatever. But our focus is to love Krishna. That's why Krishna Prem is what we are desiring. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai, Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Gaura Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai.